I want to end with something honest. This story, my story, gets told in a certain way. When people hear fragments of it, they focus on the betrayal, the confrontation, the documentation, the strategy, the way everything seems to line up afterward, as if life reorganizes itself into something clean and intentional once the truth comes out. They call it revenge. They say things like, he played it perfectly, or he got his closure the right way. And I understand why they say that. It's a simple way to make sense of something that was never simple while it was happening. But that version of the story leaves something out, something essential, because the part that changed everything for me wasn't the confrontation. It wasn't the professional consequences. It wasn't even the moment of certainty when I saw everything clearly for the first time. It was what came after. The quiet. The part where nothing is happening except time moving forward, and you're left alone with your own mind again. That's where the real work began. In a small apartment. No noise, no chaos, no urgency, just space. And in that space, I had to face something I had avoided for a long time. Not just what others had done, but how I had been living. I had to sit with questions that don't have dramatic answers. Why did I ignore discomfort when it first appeared? Why did I assume silence meant safety? Why did I believe trust was something you set once and never revisit? Why did I think being steady meant never speaking up when something didn't feel right? Those questions don't come with anger attached. They come with clarity. And clarity is harder to avoid than pain, because it doesn't fade on its own. It stays until you deal with it properly. Everything else in the story eventually settled. The legal process ended. The professional changes happened. People moved on into whatever version of their lives they were going to live next. Marcus continued in his career, but not in the way he once expected. Claire rebuilt her life separately from mine, as I rebuilt mine separately from hers. And the world, as it always does, kept moving. But what didn't leave me were the internal shifts, the changes that didn't announce themselves, but slowly became permanent. I learned that intuition is not something to dismiss just because it is not yet evidence. I learned that restraint is not the absence of emotion, but the decision to not let emotion define the outcome. I learned that your real foundation in life is not the company you work for, or the title you hold, or the structure around you. It is the trust you have built with people over time, who see you clearly enough to stay connected when things shift. And I learned that rebuilding yourself is not a betrayal of who you were. It is a continuation of it, in a more honest form. There was a version of me that tried to hold everything together by staying quiet, by staying stable, by not making things difficult. And there is a version of me now that understands silence is not the same as strength. That stability built on avoidance is not stability at all. It is delay. I don't look back at what happened and feel gratitude for the betrayal itself. I don't think anyone truly would. But I do recognize what it forced me to see and what it forced me to become. And I respect that version of me more than I expected to. Not because he won something, but because he stopped pretending and started paying attention. If there is anything I want you to take from this, it is not a strategy. It is not a method. It is not even a lesson in how to handle other people. It is something simpler. Pay attention to what you feel before you have proof. Not because every feeling is right, but because ignoring them for too long has a cost you don't see until much later. And when life forces change on you, don't confuse collapse with ending. Most of the time, it is rearrangement, something falling away, so something else can finally be built properly. I didn't become someone new. I became someone more honest with what was already there. And that made all the difference. So no, I am not grateful for what happened, but I am clear about what it revealed. And clarity, once you have it, is something you don't easily give up again. This was my story, not because it is extraordinary, but because it is human. And if you are in the middle of something that feels like it is breaking you, I want you to understand this one thing without confusion or decoration. You are not only losing something, you are also being shown something about your life, about your patterns, about your truth. And if you are willing to sit with that, even when it hurts, then what comes after is not the end. It is a beginning you couldn't see yet.